that we need to know?
You're asking me? You're standing over there. I'm sitting over here. I know it's a good project. I mean, we should have done it earlier.
Any idea why we didn't? Or, I'm not poking
No.
anybody, just curious.
It was turned down. So
Okay.
Because you figured some of how much we saved, or you were projecting what we were going to save too, didn't you, Dave?
yeah, the same thing they presented. I mean, I get the numbers.
Yeah.
The time I went through the Westar bill with you guys, and then this was after that. I didn't know about this part either, but that's the savings is on our demand, is where our savings is at, and it's a great program. Yeah, we should have done it earlier.
You have to have firm transmission to get it, and years ago it was difficult to get firm transmission, you know, to move the power from the WAPA resource to the city. It used to be difficult to get that, and that's changed over the last few years, and that's why we've been trying to get the cities to take their WAPA allocation for these savings that Dave's talking about.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Any questions?
Thank you.
You bet.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Jerry's going to talk about solar power. Are you guys prepared to talk about solar power?
We can. So unfortunately, we're not exactly sure the questions, but we can talk about that.
We have an ordinance, or I mean, we don't have an ordinance. They have an ordinance in their packet that they looked at from.
No.
No?
No.
They don't? Sorry. Okay,
but we can
start
talk.
fresh.
Yeah, we can talk.
We don't have an ordinance on solar power.
Okay, so this is about when your customers put solar on the rooftop.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So there's various ways to handle that. There's a thing called net metering, whereby a customer puts solar panels on their roof. At the end of the month, or at the time you read your meter, you read the meter. The meter will be able to register the energy going to the home, and then if there's any energy that flows back to the utility, it'll be able to measure that. You look at it, you subtract the one from the other, and you charge your customer for the use that went to the home minus what came back to the grid. So it's called net metering. There's also parallel generation, an industry term called parallel generation, whereby what you do is you charge the customer for the energy going to the home, and then you compensate them for the energy that they're delivering at a certain rate. A little bit better for the utility, more appropriate for the utility. There's the net metering is actually what we call a subsidized rate. You're not take it to an extreme that a customer puts on a solar panel, at the end of the month, they net out zero use. So you end up billing your customer whatever customer charge you may have, $5 a month, or I don't know what Herington's is.
Like just a meter charge.
A meter charge. Well, that meter charge is not collecting all the costs that you have to serve that customer. You've got your distribution lines, you've got the transformer, you've got the meter. There's fixed costs there, and so you're not collecting all the costs you need to collect from that customer, which means then the rest of your customers have to pick up that cost. So the trend is to move away from net metering to more of this parallel generation. It's really up to the community and what their drivers are. The net metering was really put in place to help spur solar development and get it to a certain level. Municipals are not required by law to provide net metering. The investor-owned utilities were and are, but they are capped at a certain level, realizing it is subsidized rate, so they only have to provide so much net metering. And once they hit that level, then they don't have to provide it anymore. So Kansas Municipal Utilities, which I believe you're probably a member of, maybe not, they're in charge of trying to develop a template for parallel generation that cities can adopt. It's probably 3 to 4 months out before they get that done. But if you can hold off, we would recommend that you wait until that policy is developed. And that's taking a look at all these nuances of customer generation. Again, it's up to each city what they want to do and what the drivers are.
David, you found some ordinances or something for the parallel, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was it from KMU or was it, who was it from?
It was a member city that they allowed,
Oh, that's right.
or I know it's from KMEA that sent it to us. And
Oh.
KMU sent me some stuff too,
Yeah.
from different
KMU
cities.
stuff is a little bit old.
Mhm.
There's a city, one of our member cities that had a consultant come in and develop a parallel generation policy, which we think is pretty solid.
We had one that said we could use theirs.
Yeah, City of Eudora.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you need to do something now, that's probably what I would.
I mean, you suggest the parallel, don't you? I mean,
Yes.
that's kind of after what we read stuff, we were like, and David, Haley as well.
If you do the
we were
net
like, parallel
generation,
is
you're
the way
actually
to go.
Giving them, you're paying them 13, or our price, or what we charge.
Right.
So, but if you do the parallel generation, I think the
Works a little bit.
recommended is 150% of, what do you call it, avoided cost?
Avoided cost
Which is basically the energy charge
times 1.5.
times 1.5, which would be, in our case, about 3 cents. And the only thing that we would, I don't know if it could be in the ordinance somehow, to not, so that we don't, because our energy charge can change
Right.
Yep.
percentage-wise a little bit.
Mhm.
So instead of going, every month, we have to sit there and figure out,
Just so
You
if
can
we
set
set
it
it
on
at
an
a
annual
flat,
basis.
flat rate
The 3 cents.
of 3 cents or something, for parallel generation.
Or set it at a flat rate that's adjustable based upon 100% on an annual or every
Well, it could,
2-year
yeah, if you want to do
basis
an
or something.
annual deal adjustment, or for the ordinance or whatever, yeah.
That way we don't have to go back and readdress it later on because some other factor has changed and now it's,
Yeah, an annual deal, or, we just didn't want to do it on a monthly deal.
well, yeah.
Do you have any solar right now?
Just one.
You have a couple.
Two.
2, possibly 3 going.
Are you handling them as net metering right now?
Right now, we're not handling them as anything. We don't have an ordinance, we don't have a contract with them, so.
And I know Westar, I had a customer that I worked with in Salina that he put up solar panels, and so Westar is charging him more now for having those. Have you heard about that?
State law was recently changed, and again, it's all this, dealing with really the subsidized rate issue. And so now they're allowing, if a customer puts on solar panels, that you can charge a more appropriate customer charge to cover those fixed costs. And, where I used to work 3 years ago, this is scary, but we had a consultant decide, what's the fixed cost? If we were to, cover our fixed cost with a customer charge, what was that customer charge? And it was $60 a month. And then then the energy charge would drop way down. Your energy costs you about 2 or 3 cents. So, charge your customer $70 a month for, no matter if they use anything, and then 3 cents a kilowatt hour for the use they use. That's true cost to serve, but it's very politically tough to do that.
Right, it
obviously.
might be more fair to the customers, but
Right, yes.
those of us who live in small houses wouldn't like that.
Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. But I guess the message there is, as you're going through, nobody likes to talk about rates, but when you go through rates and you're looking at rates,
Mhm.
keep an eye on what your customer charge is. Most of our utilities our cities are looking to slowly increase that customer charge to kind of get it more appropriate. I know like my gas service at my home, I pay, I think it's $29 a month, no matter whether I use gas or not. It's, electric should be moving in that direction as well, really.
Does KMEA help municipalities do rate surveys and energy studies?
We are trying to get to the point where we can do that. We can help the smaller cities, and Herington may fall into that group. You're kind of on that border of what I call a small city and a larger city, but we're trying to get to the where we can help provide that service. Right now, we can do a full-blown cost service rate study. We can definitely look at your rates and give you recommendations, but if you want a full-blown study, right now we can't do that. But we can, for instance, we can help you with like, I think you should move your customer charge, and this is what it should do to your energy charge, but to get into complicated rate structures, we're not there yet.
Right. That might be something to consider, because we need rate studies.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that.
But we, again, Tom mentioned this, we are there for you guys, and we're pretty cheap. You pay your membership due right now. After that, it's free. So, you know, we come out here anytime you want. We'll look at your stuff. We'll help you with budgeting. We got this fiscal program that we love to, you know, where we pull all our cities together once get involved in that fiscal program, and then we kind of benchmark you against the other cities and you know, see where your cash reserves are, things like that, and where they need to be.
And even if we can't do that rate study, we can definitely, after we look at it, we can probably advise you on a good consultant to go to. We'd be happy to do that.
And it would be useful to see how we compare it to other like-sized municipalities. Not that that's the end-all be-all, but it is helpful information. All right, anything else?
One more thing.
Sure.
The energy going back to us on the lines can cause problems when we have an outage. I mean, there is a percentage that we can allow for the city, or for solar power to be in a city. I mean, once that percentage is met, you know, nobody else can, I mean, we can not allow them to have any more, you know, not allow the next citizen to have one or something, you know, if we hit our percentage. And it's in the ordinance there, or will be. But anyway, the safety factor of the linemen working on the lines, there's two safeties. I mean, in the inverter itself, there's supposed to be a safety that shuts off the power so it can't return. The second safety measure, if that doesn't work, is there's a physical disconnect. But, you know, right now we got 2. You know, if it gets up to 10 or 20, you know, are we going to remember, oh, hey, we got to go, that's extra work for the line crew or for somebody to make sure it's safety. So that's another thing to think about on solar power.
We've got 2, maybe 3. Do we see any more on the horizon, or have we been told of any more?
Well, it's not cheap to put in, so, you know, go from there, you know. I mean, not everybody in the town will be able to do it. I mean, I don't even want to do it, so. I mean, unless the banker lets me do it,
I like letting you guys take care of it, and I just turn the switches on and off.
I was gonna say.
The lights come on.
Yep, it usually works. You can turn the switch.
Isn't there, I think somebody, I don't remember who told me that, like, there's different qualities of electricity as well? Is that right? Like, the solars, what they produce and put in our grid might not be the quality of what we're producing?
Quality's probably not.
Or I don't know the right, but you know what I'm saying?
But yes, if they don't have the right, you know, the right system in place, the inverter and so forth, you can cause problems. They can cause problems on your system. And I would say that that's rare. These solar, you know, they've got it perfected. So if your customers are using a legit company, you shouldn't have any issues. The issue is the safety thing. That
Yeah,
you
that's
can't
big.
underscore that. Somebody could get killed if that solar panel disconnect switch, automatic disconnect switch doesn't work, and you got a lineman out there working to restore service, and that wire is live because of that backfeed, you can get somebody killed. So that's the most important thing, is that automatic disconnect switch. And then, you know, Dave and his guys you know, will they be able to go around and confirm that wire's not live, you know, that's what scares
Right.
us, you know, in the industry.
And then as far as allowing how much solar power they can put on per resident, per person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that goes by what they've used in the past. You know, a certain percentage, you know, you don't give them 100% of what their peak is. But I don't know if that's, I think that's in.
That will be in the policy.
In the ordinance.
Yeah. Your
Capping
policy.
it at a certain percentage of people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, they, obviously a solar panel company is going to try to say, hey, you can get it to 0.
Right.
You know, this is what you need. You can get it to 0. You don't have to pay a light bill again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes. I mean, that, like I say, then they're taking advantage of the grid,
Mm-hmm.
our grid, their grid, everybody's, and only paying whatever the meter charge is, which is not very good for us.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, Solar power does not work without the grid,
That's right.
unless you have batteries, which that raises the price
We
again.
like to call the grid, for those customers, the grid is a battery for them.
Yeah.
It's really what's going on.
Well, it's a great deal for them because they don't have to buy the batteries.
So, right,
Yeah.
right. Pay $5 a month or whatever your meter charge is.
I mean, you,
14.
you look at the transmission charge, that's what we're paying, so.
Right.
And if somebody uses solar power, they should pay a part of that yet, on top. So, okay.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 12, discuss and review revised estimate for ADA on Broadway. Do we have a revised estimate for ADA?
Well, just the one that we had last time, but you said you wanted Leah to come and kind of explain some of the,
What Brenda?
at the last meeting, we had the ADA presented and we had questions, so Leah's here today to kind of go over, answer some of those questions that they had.
I knew
I'm sorry.
How you doing, Leo?
that.
It said revised, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Continuation.
Yeah, I should have said continue.
Revisit.
Yeah. So,
Just say it's a typo, it's supposed to be revisit.
it's revisit.
find it in a second.
I can go grab it if you want.
I know I got them an updated cost from when it
Was it like
originally,
68,000?
yeah, from the original price they had from the, back when we very first asked them. We never did nothing.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, so the one corner was $12,335, the other was $17,001.
That could be right. I mean, I don't have it in front of me, the numbers.
Right.
Yeah, it's the two corners on
Yep.
Walnut and Broadway.
So what are the changes then?
The only
Right.
changes between was just the updated price from when
It went up.
we got them. I don't even remember if Ron was still here or
Oh,
Ed or
that's
who, the
good.
very
Okay,
first
you're
one,
right.
and then
Yeah.
when you inquired about it, I had them refresh their figures.
Yeah, because September of 2016 and then to February of 2018, the price went up.
All right.
I know 2 weeks ago we were talking about like, what in the world, how is this so expensive if we're cutting all?
Yeah, you wanted-
cutting. That was
Yeah,
part
you
of our
wanted to know
discussion.
if it was removed, if they did the removal, if we were cutting it and removing
It says
it.
on there that we do all the removal within ±1 for the grade.
So we tear everything out, all I gotta do is come in, put in new stuff, and it still costs
Yeah.
as much.
The slow put and everything, that's for all, the price of the concrete and everything. But like I told Brenda, I know it looks like the 88 fund don't have that much, you know, we can't do it, it's a wash. But I told her, if you look at it, if the ADA fund has money, that can do the ramps. And then since we are doing curb and gutter too, we had the stormwater funds to come in and actually pay for the curb and gutter part of it. Then we are getting out the street a little bit, and then it's, you know, I think the street fund's got the money there to
So really we
cover
can
that.
kind of pull it
yeah,
from
it's
a
not
whole
all
bunch of
just
places.
slamming the ADA fund.
We're gonna split it up.
Yeah, because like I say, the way it was presented to me in the stormwater fund, anything dealing with the water, the curb and gutter, culverts, anything like that, the stormwater money can be used for. So
Hmm.
where we're removing curb and gutter, we can use that there and justify it. But this is doing, it's just not just the ramp either.
Right.
You know, this is going halfway across the streets where the whole crosswalk will be new concrete and everything, from tying the other sidewalk, down ramp, and up.
Right, and we saw those in the pictures that
Yeah.
were with the estimates. How much, we put 10,000 into ADA in 2016, 10,000 in 2017, and forecast for 10,000 in 2018, but how much do we actually have set aside right now?
Dave, you also put 5,000
Okay,
in.
please. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was thinking when I looked at the thing, at our budget, it said 5,000, but I don't have the budget in front of me. I need to go grab the,
For 2018?
yeah.
that's still in my bag that has never left
Okay.
the budget. No, that's
Okay,
not a good
start-
thing.
I'm
That
gonna
just
start-
tells you how unorganized
I'm
that
gonna
bag
start
is,
bringing
and
it
I
here
can only,
with me.
I can only find it because it happens to be spiral bound.
All right, what'd you have, Rick?
There was also 5,000 put in 2015.
Okay.
I don't know where it disappeared to, but it was put in there originally. And Ed had said he had found it and had moved part of the ADA monies into a different system when I was asking about it at the last budget review. Because the last budget was only showing the 2017 and 2018, and he said the prior ones had been moved. So I don't know where it was moved to or how, but there should be, as of right now, there should be 35,000 budgeted for the ADA compliances.
Thank you, Rick.
I'll have to look on my expenditure report, it's easier to find stuff on there,
But-
because it's that way you can spend.
Looking at what we've already got set aside with ADA, what we can use out of stormwater, and
We're
everything
gonna
else.
get that. I think, I need to look at the, because we were looking at that, was it yesterday? Today? My days
Right.
are
Yeah,
mixing together.
they'll run together, so.
Yeah, but,
Could've done
yeah, we
last
were
week.
pretty comfortable we'd be able to cover all of it. And we kinda talked about too, there's a couple places, like out front here where the curb's gone,
Right.
and then over in front of, the
Massage.
massage, it's really bad, so
There.
they said that they could just go ahead and cut that out, since they're here and
I
know
was
how
gonna say,
to
if
do
you
it,
wanted to
we could
do
just
it-
take care of it.
Yeah, I mean, that is still curb and gutter stormwater, so.
Yeah.
When, did they give an estimate on when they would be available to come do work, or
I
just
don't
sometime
know
this
what
summer?
their, current schedule's like, so.
And you've got sufficient manpower to tear all this stuff out in your free time?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we got a couple guys, but
Does it say on there that, was it 30 days, 90 days?
But the quote's good for,
30 days.
Was it 30?
Yeah,
as long as,
and it's dated the 12th, so we need to approve it this meeting.
They did it for one.
So we're gonna go back there.
We have to outsource this.
As far as the installation, I think so. I don't think we've got the equipment or the personnel to do it.
I was gonna say, cause once mowing season gets here, everybody's gone. Now that I'm, overseeing the other departments too, it's probably gonna leave 2 guys on the street side. So, and that's to do all the weekly dues, trash and everything, dig graves and anything else there is, we'll leave 2 for that. But sooner we can do it, and I can step in and help them do it.
I'm a little concerned about having enough manpower to do the removal,
So,
let alone the installation.
so now we can get the removal done. I can see if we can shuffle guys maybe from the water department, they can come over and pitch in. And more than likely with that intersection, they'll do it in halves. So, we come in, get one prepped for them, pour, and so they can put traffic on hold.
I think we need to do it. Interim
Well,
city manager?
we've kind of sat on it for years and not done anything, so yeah, I think it's kind of time to make some improvements.
Comments, concerns, questions?
I mean, I wish it wasn't so expensive, but it's not very.
Price is just
I
gonna
was
keep
gonna
going
say, it's
up.
just gonna go up, so
It is.
Like
there's
everything
no
is
reason
more
to sit on
expensive
it.
every year, it's cheaper.
We've seen a price increase from
Yeah, in the 2
16.
years.
How do you pronounce that, Votes Parga?
Yeah.
Make a motion, we approve the quote from Volks Parga for ADA compliance to the northwest corner of Broadway and Walnut, southwest corner of Broadway and Walnut. Amounts of $12,335 and $17,001.75.
That might go up a little bit if we do those 2 little sections. So I would like like to get those done while we're done.
Why don't we go ahead and approve these two now, and
And
then
then we can get a quote on that. And
we can
then-
start doing add-ons, and,
Okay.
because that list could grow, and I don't want to make it open.
Well, that's why, yeah. Okay, we'll do that.
I can have them, on a project like that, they can probably give me per square foot of what they're doing. And then we can get that and come back to you, next meeting or before they're here and say, it's this much, you want to go ahead and proceed.
Absolutely, no, that's a great idea, I like that.
Unless it's a possibility, if it's within Brenda's,
Absolutely
approval, that she can
discretionary
just
authority.
approve it.
I'll
Because
second.
I don't see for those two that were
Gonna do that.
maybe $400 or $500 or something, so.
Yeah, that would be,
You
yeah.
can just.
All right, motion's been made, Mark seconded, discussion. The only other thing I add is I know it's expensive, but we've got to get some of the streets repaired, some of this curb and gutter.
What corners were those? On Broadway?
Southwest and northwest corner of Broadway and Walnut. Basically right there at the mini mall and Messalozzi's. No other discussion? Brenda?
Commissioner Hawks?
Aye.
Commissioner Nessler?
Aye.
Commissioner Hager?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Distressed property hearing, the mall, West Walnut, and we're now open the distressed property hearing.
Okay,
Okay.
we did hear back from KDHE.
Can't
hear you.
You're gonna have to use your
Microphone.
mic, 'cause they're gonna,
We did hear back from KDHE. They can fund the asbestos abatement up to 50%, at 50%, up to a maximum of 15,000. Meaning their 15,000, so 30,000,
okay.
which probably should get us there on asbestos. That's all we're talking about. We cannot send that request for funding until July 1st. We're going to want to do it on July 1 so that we're prioritized and to maximize the chance of early funding. And then they would engage the contractors to do the work. The access, the access element of it is still something that we have to be able to ensure. We'll cost share that, assuming that we decided to go that route. There are also grants available through the Department of Commerce that it appears we would probably qualify for. Those are more flexible than KDHE's grants from EPA, and they can also be used for other redevelopment work, mold remediation, if there's structural issues, that kind of thing, and generally that can be done. I don't have, nor could they give me, a total magnitude of what would be available for any one applicant. That's still something, depending on what funding they receive. The contact person, though, at the department we now have, who's very knowledgeable and helpful with all of that. Chris Steinkamp is continuing to assist with that part of the process. I need to call him again probably this week to kind of go over, do we need to set up a meeting with Commerce and see if they can nail down a bit more what else is available. So in terms of this hearing, we don't ever want to have to republish on this, so my suggestion is we keep it open, we continue it. I don't care if we continue it for 30 days. There's really not a whole lot more for the owner, given that they're not looking to be particularly participatory, other than to be cooperative with us, so we can figure out, do we have sufficient funds to make this all happen and get it all done. Then the negotiation element will then come into play.
Okay, but there's no timeline requirements as far as the grants through the Department of Commerce?
No, not that I know of at this point. You can make those applications at any time, depending upon which of them you're looking at. There are several, and part of it is going to be the denomination of those and what's available. And a lot of that, that comes in, their funding sources are varied, but as I understand it, but some of that's federal as well. And so they're sitting there going, until we know what the next budgetary cycle will produce, it's a little tough to tell you how much is there. Clearly, this is the type of project that is higher up on the list based upon the potential for contamination and problems in terms of airborne kinds of issues. So there's at least some likelihood that there would be money available and worth our pursuing.
Okay, so what's the next step we need to take as far as making something happen?
We're still 3 months away from really being at a point where we can go ahead and make the request. for the fundings with the KDHE. In the interim, I think is to nail down what potentially is available and if there's any applications we can process right away now with Department of Commerce, and then making contact with the current owner to get some type of a written agreement in place so we have complete access to the structure for these purposes and kind of develop that scope. I need to talk with Chris about whether we need to go back through, as we did once before with some architects and engineers that we've used before, to engage them for anything more specific than what we've already done. I don't want to spend that money if we don't have to. We've had them come in once before and spent some money with an advisory opinion of what needed to be done in there. So it's kind of a coordination of a number of sources here. And that includes the conversation with Commerce to find out what they would require from us as part of the application process.
As far as engineering and estimates?
Yep. And we were kind of waiting to find out, okay, how much is available through KDHE, and I think that's, unless something else develops in terms of EPA sources of funding, that may be the extent of what they can offer us at this particular point, and then the rest is probably going to be those grants.
And is that along the same line as the brownfield?
Pretty, yeah, it is. Matter of fact, that is one of the programs that are being used.
So your recommendation is just to table this to
Yeah.
April 3rd?
And basically, I don't know that I want to, we are continuing the hearing, it's not even tabling, this remains active. All we're trying to do is aggregate enough sources of funds that we can go in and go, okay, it's viable for us to go in and commit to putting all of those monies together. What was really advantageous about all of this is that the city can go in, since this is a property within the city limits, and we don't have to do it in the owner's name, we can do it in the city's name.
Then who does the property belong to?
Even though we don't
It's
own
still
it.
theirs.
All right, so then we will continue until the first, or can probably continue to the first meeting in April. In the meantime, we'll start working with the owner as
Yeah.
far as,
Because if we do it on a 30-day cycle, it's only going to be a couple of months, and really most of this is going to have to be done.
right.
So I think it's appropriate to do it on a 30-day cycle.
In the meantime, we can start talking to the owners about access and working through that piece.
Yeah, and get something, I'm going to want something in writing that's agreed upon. They're clear on what we're doing and how this is working, and they're in the boat rowing.
Absolutely. Cynthia?
I was just wondering what our current balance on our condemnation fund is.
Not near enough.
I mean, would it even cover the 15,000 to
No.
match just
No.
the asbestos?
No.
No, okay.
So I move that we continue this hearing to April 3rd, 2018.
Second?
Discussion? Brenda?
Commissioner Hawks?
Aye.
Commissioner Nessler?
Aye.
Commissioner Hager?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. All right, we'll close the hearing. Consider an ordinance amending the current 2006 edition IBC ICC codes, the city code book, to the 2015 edition series, the same to include 101-1 or ISEP, 2017 NFPA 1911 and NFPA 70 codes. Ordinance number to be
1800.
This is the fees, proper electrical codes from
Yes. Basically, the basic background on this is simply going ahead and supplanting the 2006 with the 2015s. And there are actually several additional ones that go with that series now. We ordered those some time ago, so we have those copies in place. So there's nothing more that we need to do other than get this done, so that those then become the applicable codes that we're using for purposes of evaluation. Anything that Scott's examining in terms of permitting, that's what will apply. And just as a point of reference on this, I'm probably going to do this as a summary form of ordinance, which we're allowed to do. But the codes will be available in the office as well as the full text of the ordinance.
Wait for me to read it.
I'm just trying to figure out, do I want to make this motion, or how much do I want to read this motion?
I was gonna say, I don't read all.
I move that we pass ordinance 1800, an ordinance amending chapter for Articles 1, 2, 4, 6, and 9 relating to building, plumbing, property maintenance, mechanical, solar energy provisions, residential code, national electric code, fuel, gas, zoning, existing building, green construction, private sewer, wildland, urban interface code, council performing swimming pool and spa, energy conservation, life safety, and fire code sections 4-101, 4-102, and 4-103, sections 4-201, 4-210, sections 4-401, 4-402, and 4-411. I'm about ready to get the auctioneer voice. And 4-412, I make it faster. Sections 4-001, 4-602, and 4-606, and sections 4-901 of the Code of the City of Herington, Kansas, as currently in effect, pertaining to the adoption of reference of the International Building Codes 2015 edition, NFPA 101, 2015 edition, and the NFPA 1911, the attendant amendments as may be periodically adopted as it relates by reference throughout Chapter 4 of the Code of the City of Herington, Kansas.
Second.
I know why we're all hesitating on who had to read that.
I was looking at Mark, I was not reading it.
Discussion. Brenda?
Commissioner Hawks?
Aye.
Commissioner Hessler?
I
Commissioner Hager?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye.
really just wanted to say no so that we could, make him reread it.
I think you missed a word.
Number 15, discuss Community Cleanup Week, April 23 to 27, 2018. I sent you out a letter prior to the meeting. I'm sorry I didn't send that to you, Brad. It was mostly just a feel-good meeting, feel-good letter. Basically, the concept that we're looking for, that I'm espousing or advocating for the community cleanup. In years past, it's been basically an opportunity to set stuff out at the curb and the city workers come by and pick it up. That's not a community cleanup. What I'm talking about is engaging the school, the nonprofits, the churches, the advocacy groups, neighbors, people of the town who see things every day that irritate them, that they think needs to be cleaned, that needs to be changed, needs to be addressed, to take action. If it's not your property, if it's a city-owned piece of property like one of our parks, or maybe it's your neighbor's house that's got a brush pile in the backyard, get their permission, go do something about it. Do something about cleaning up your neighborhood. That's the basic premise. Take a stand or make a difference where you stand. The problem with trying to prioritize a community cleanup is we all have different priorities. Well, it needs to be the downtown area. It needs to be this park. It needs to be over here. It needs to be over there. We've got very limited resources on the city side. You heard Leo talking a little bit ago about who we're going to be able to put together to remove the curb and guttering so we can do some ADA compliance work downtown. Bottom line, we don't have city staff that can go around and pick up tree limbs and spare tires and batteries and things that need to be picked up. But we don't necessarily need somebody who's working for the city to come do it. So that was the point that I was trying to convey with that letter. Any recommendations or changes, additions? Do we all need to sign it? Do we want to just have names listed at the bottom? But the basic idea is once the commission agrees on what that letter is going to say, I would like to see we mail that out from the commission, not from the city, from the commission, asking for nonprofits and all these different groups to get involved, to try and make a difference. And then the five of us, go out and talk to as many of those groups as possible, personally asking them to get involved. Now, if there's, like I talked to the American Legion, they brought up the point of, if we pick up trash along the highway from town out to the lake, it's going to generate potentially a lot of trash. What can the city do to assist in getting rid of those trash bags? That's a good point. Maybe that's something we can get with M&K Trash. Maybe we can set something up so that they collect the trash and we've got a coordination point, and maybe we can budget a little bit of money to help get rid of that trash so we don't have the people who have gone out and done this good deed, now they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with 27 bags of trash. So on a limited basis like that, I think we can, as far as the city, we can support those good acts without our guys physically going out and taking care of the bags and
Well,
such.
and then it becomes a, what can I do for the city instead of a, what can the city do for me this week? And I like that stance.
There's a lot of opportunities. I've already gotten emails and text messages from people in the civic club, VFWs talking about things that they might want to do. There's, I talked to Ron Wilson over at the schools. They're kind of looking at what they can do. Obviously, it's during the week, so maybe they do the weekend before, the weekend after. Not necessarily have to be that week, but just kind of focusing on that week because Earth Day is the prior Labor Day, or not Labor Day, Arbor Day is the Friday, and then the car show is that Saturday. So the timing couldn't be better.
I'll make a point to say something to Mr. Wilson as well. With him being new, he probably doesn't realize that we've always done an Earth Day cleanup. I mean, that's something that's been going on for a while. We take time out of our school day to do it, so it doesn't even have to be a weekend thing. So
Yeah.
I'll make a point to mention something like that.
But is that something that we all five need to sign, or just, you want me to sign it and we'll list names at the bottom, or how do you think it would present better?
I think it would look better if we all signed it. And then it comes from us personally. One note, you have Hager's last name spelled wrong.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Really?
I'm not the
You
I'm
have
not the
AR,
horrible one.
not ER.
That's what I get for, see, when thoughts are coming into my head, I have to get them on paper before I lose it. Spell check failed me.
Don't listen to spell check on my name because I chose to do Nestle.
I will fix that.
Literally.
Was that the only change or suggestion?
The fact that you do military dates bothers me, but I'll go with it. He puts 22 April instead of
That's
April
how
22nd.
everybody does it.
It drives me insane.
I
but
know.
I'll go with it for your
It's,
sake.
it's weird to look at when you're not used to it.
Yeah, 22 April, 23 through 27, April 2018. Whatever floats your
It
boat.
wouldn't bother your dad.
No, it wouldn't, but it bothers me.
I don't understand what the
I
problem
would like it.
I'm going with it. I wasn't complaining.
All right,
Can I make a suggestion on the date? Because usually after like graduation, schools struggle to fill that time up more.
We're
so-
doing finals at the high school. There's no
Are
way.
they, you guys are,
there's-
so that's what I was
Yeah,
gonna bring
there's no
up.
way you'll get anything from the school if we do
So
it
they're
that
not
time.
doing the like, train, like the,
We've always done it that Earth Week.
We,
is it?
We've always done Earth Day.
Okay.
yep, I say the middle school does some fun stuff before graduation, but we
Okay.
are still doing stuff right up to the
I
end.
wasn't sure.
I would love it if this became a quarterly event, but
In
that
December.
might
No
be
winter time.
stretching. Cleaning the snow, clean the yellow snow.
At least semi-annually.
Yeah, semi-annually would be good, but this one, I mean, you got Earth Day on the 22nd, Arbor Day on the 27th, and the car show and drags on the 28th. We're kind of going to spring, everybody's got spring fever, you got piles of stuff that need to go away.
Are you reaching out to the churches? Because I know St. Paul's always does
They do
something
something.
too, but I didn't know if other, like, if you were reaching out to other churches,
Absolutely.
that would help.
What's
Also.
that?
I'm just looking
He's
at
looking at the
school.
school calendar.
Well, track, that's actually a good time because,
They can pick up trash while they run.
no, not really.
Well, for all of our kids that are not in track,
Yes.
it's
which
kind
is
of hard
like,
to hold
ooh.
class when I have 3 out of 18 kids sitting in a classroom.
Yeah.
So even if we don't have all of the kids who can participate, because you've
It's
got
a
your
good
track
time to
athletes,
have it
Yeah.
because,
it's a great
you know,
time because you're not really taking away from class time.
This
because
track
let's be
is
honest,
the
it's not a
largest
productive class
sport.
time.
we have, and that's what takes most of the kids away.
Any other comments, recommendations, changes to the letter? Okay, then I will get with our city manager and put it on city letterhead, and we'll have it up here available for you to come by and sign. And then we'll start getting it out. Like I said, if you're in a group or you communicate with a group or you want to take on a particular group, and, I would love it if you go talk to them personally. I will also be submitting it to the newspaper next week as a letter to the editor. And Wendy has volunteered to help us with the Facebook page and the social media stuff. So, okay, anything else on that? Then, moving on to 16, discuss water rates.
Are you wanting me to talk now?
Absolutely. You just have to talk loud.
she needs it.
I contacted, well, Mayor Jones and I talked about the Hope water rates and stuff like that. So, I contacted KMEA regarding a rate study. They don't have time right now to be, yes, that's what they contacted.
See, KMA is elected.
Yes.
You were more
I
interested
did
in
the rural
water.
water.
So when we talked, I sent
Kansas
you to
rural water.
Kansas rural water.
Thank you. This is why I don't use a mic. So after talking to them, they suggested that we work with a gentleman by the name of Carl Brown. He, that's who they put other cities in touch with, and he is able to do water rate studies, sewer rate studies, and then if there is a conflict, like with another town that purchases, and it would go to court, he has all that capability of being able to come and present why we did the rates that we implemented.
He serves as an expert witness, is what she is saying.
So
Thank you.
he's a private contractor then that comes
Yes.
in and,
So I've already,
KRW, I'm sorry, Brenda.
no, go ahead.
KRWA will do limited rate studies. They don't have time right now. They're about 8 months out. They certainly have the expertise to do that. I've used them repeatedly. However, more and more they outsource, and this is the first gentleman that they will recommend. He's forgotten more than most people will know about how those rates are calculated, what goes into them, how they should be calculated, what the multipliers are, what the margins are. You look out 40 years, 50 years in terms of the limited commodity, and it has an ever-increasing value. I mean, I represent wholesale water districts, so that kind of study is incredibly useful and a good investment, candidly. Most of the time, any funding that you do in the future, which we may, on certain types of water quality insurance and that kind of thing, and treatment and et cetera, requires 125% margin. He makes sure that he factors all of that in. He looks at what your potential needs may be decades out, and prepares a pretty comprehensive informational type of analysis of everything, and then does all the number crunching for you and comes down to, this is what a gallon of water costs you today, this is what it should cost you. I mean, even down to some efficiencies in that regard. And then certainly for things, for example, like with Hope, when you're signing back up for 40 years, you better have a pretty good idea exactly what it is that you're doing, so you're not subsidizing, which unfortunately in some ways we are right now. So the thought was, when I talked with Brenda about it, we really probably need to get him to at least look at everything that's been done up to now and projecting ahead. He's more than willing to do that, and because we're a member of KWRA, discounted that somewhat.
He just did manholes.
Yeah.
He also said that like if we can help us get more grants, like for
Yes.
our water plant project that we're doing. He said, I don't know if you're looking at them or not, so I don't know either. But he said if we're not, we will probably want to after we do this with him, because he usually gets that stuff done. He also, as soon as we're done with that, since he already has our information, we're doing a sewer one. So I already got him lined up for that as well. So
what's the cost?
On the water, for
was it four?
something.
Yeah, it was
Just under
4,000
five.
something. I don't have it right in front of me.
Right.
So between 4,000 and 5,000.
He's probably, I don't know if I want to use the term preeminent, but close to the preeminent expert on that in this area.
Well, Corey, this
Why-
is going from West Virginia to Wyoming.
Yeah, and why anyone would want to get an expertise in what he does, I have no famous idea, but he's very good at it.
Right.
It's like
Well,
watching
and for-
paint dry, but he's good at it.
For less than $5,000 to get a comprehensive rate study on a utility that does about $800,000 a year in business, that seems,
Yeah, it's a revenue generating fund for us, so
Well,
it's
it's
one of those,
supposed
yeah, in theory,
Supposed to.
it's an enterprise fund, and so really that investment that I think is well worth your time.
Absolutely. Did he give any indication of what the sewer rate study would be? That also needs to be.
Yeah, I think it was like 3,000. He said it's gonna be less because he already has the information,
Right.
so. But I really don't, I don't wanna say and then not have it right, so I
Do we
don't
have-
remember, but
Do we have room in those particular departments?
we're making it.
Did he give any indication how long it would take him to get it done?
He said, as motivated as we are, he said he could get on it pretty quick. I just, I sent him several things already.
4 to 6 weeks, usually,
I
something
think
like
so.
that. Is it
That's
pretty quick?
Pretty quick.
Yeah. So, I just emailed him tonight before the commission meeting to see what else I need to be sending him. And, so we haven't started.
It's well within your,
Yes, it was, but
Authority
it's still
level.
kind of maybe nervous.
and I
But,
absolutely think we need to get it done.
well, so we talked extensively and, yeah, so I just went with it. So, we made the right call.
Very happy.
Yep.
Any other comments? The only other thing I'll add on to that, talking about water rates, I started looking back through the rate projection studies that were done with the new water treatment plant, and they told us back in 2015 that we needed to increase our rates at least 2 more times, just to cover it. No, we haven't.
And that is a big concern. I told Brad, I said, we're behind the 8 ball. I
Yep.
don't like being behind the 8 ball. We need to start being more proactive and.
Before we execute on those final funding sources, they are going to ask us for that.
Oh, absolutely.
And if we don't have that coverage ratio that I was mentioning earlier, well, funds will not be
Well,
approved.
and I have a problem with when our water department, when we were taking property tax dollars and putting into our water department to augment it.
Well, and I'm looking at it as a consumer, I would rather have a bunch of little increments so I can get used to it
Yes.
than
instead of
one
getting-
big one hit me right
I
away.
have tried to get that done.
Trust me, I've had straight at my house all day trying to figure out what my water
Let's do
leak
it 5
was.
cents to 3-4 cents a year, and then you don't notice it.
The only plus in
Instead of all
terms
of
of
a
being
sudden $8.
opportunistic, at this point, if he comes in with a significant recommendation, you can blame it on Brett.
I mean, we're pretty.
You can,
Blame it on
and then
her
demote
anyways.
me back to.
That would be what you would want.
All right, let's absolutely get the ball rolling on that, and we'll put